That was horrible.
Hey, Isaac.
Hey, Derek.
Have you looked outside recently?
Oh, yeah, it looks, it's outside.
There's a lot of corn.
Oh, I see
There's a
it
lot
now.
of
It's
corn.
everywhere. And you
It's
know what they
everywhere.
say? Nothing dies in the corn.
Nothing dies out there. So if you don't want to die,
Mm.
go make friends with a corn monster.
Yep. Nothing dies in the corn, and this week we are here on That Was Horrible to discuss whether or not that is a good thing in the form of the remake of Children of the Corn.
2022?
2023?
Which one? Yeah, so we went and saw the theatrical release of Children of the Corn 2023.
Yep.
Which originally was going to come out in 2022.
No, 2020.
That's what I meant, 2020. And then the big C word kind of delayed that for a while.
Yep, makes sense. Got in the way of a lot.
And then it just kind of kept getting delayed. So here we are with an 18-day theatrical release before it comes out on March 20th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So those of you at home who want to listen to that movie instead of this podcast.
You've got very few, couple days to do that.
Couple days. So first, right off the bat, I will say that this movie is not out yet on digital. So if you do want to see it, which, maybe don't, then, maybe avoid this episode.
It does appear like it'll be streaming on Shudder at some
Yes,
point. It is
yeah.
run through them. I think they helped produce the movie, so if you want to not go pay money to see it in theaters, just get a subscription to Shudder, which you should have anyway if you listen to this podcast, and go watch it there.
Yeah, so, we will be spoiling the movie pretty heavily, obviously. So, just keep that in mind. But, caveat there, our podcast will be more entertaining than the movie.
Can't say that yet.
I know,
You
but I have to
haven't
give
told them why.
I have to give some warning there.
So tell me about this movie.
Yeah, so at the time of recording, Children of the Corn 2023 has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 10 for the critics. So that has actually gone up, though.
That went up.
When we went into the movie, it was at 7, and now it is at 10.
When you told me about it was 9. When we went to the movie, it was 7, and now it is 10.
Yeah.
So it fluctuates.
It does fluctuate.
It's a pretty new movie, so I guess that makes sense.
But the audience score is sitting around a 17. I think there's only about 100 reviews right now, though, so that could change wildly. The IMDb score is at 3.9, which is so bad. Metacritic is at 21, and then Letterboxd is 1.8.
Wowee.
So this is technically a prequel, which
Doesn't
blows my
make
mind.
any sense at all.
It's a new adaptation of the short story by Stephen King, Children of the Corn. And then other places I read that it's a remake of the 1984 Children
It
of the Corn.
is both, yet none at the same time. We will get in to tell you
Yes,
the
we
fact
will.
that you might as well have not called it Children of the Corn.
Just
It
call
could
it
have been a completely different thing.
The cornfield.
Plus corn.
So it was written and directed by Kurt Wimmer. And this is his first movie he's directed in 14 years.
Yeah.
The last movie he directed was Ultraviolet in 2006, which was just a horrible sci-fi action movie with Mila Jovovich, the lady
Jovovich,
from Resident Evil.
I looked at a little bit of it. It looks very Resident Evil-esque.
I remember watching that years and years ago. It is so bad.
But yeah,
It
he
is so bad.
retired after that movie because of creative differences with that team, and he's like, "Nope, I'm out." And then he came back to give us
This wonderful thing. He has written a few
Thank you,
things.
Kurt Wimmer.
It seems like remakes are his thing because he also did the Total Recall remake, which
Yep.
was total shit remake. So yeah, that's really it. I was gonna read you some of the reviews that are going up currently on Rotten Tomatoes.
Because, yeah, this is kind of how Derek showed me. Because I remember actually, I saw that they were remaking Children of the Corn, and I actually remember enjoying the original one from 1984, a decent amount, right? I didn't think it was bad. And so I was like, oh, cool, awesome, a remake of Children of the Corn. And then I didn't really hear anything about it. There's been no
disappeared.
publicity around this movie whatsoever. And then Derek's like, hey, it's out this weekend, let's go see it. And I was like, well, is it bad enough? And then he proceeded to read me reviews. And yes, it was.
Like this one from Michelle Fetters of Movie Freak. She says, the only emotional response this Children of the Corn scares up is boredom.
Ooh. Critics are brutal, and we are going to be no better.
Yeah, Kevin Garrett, Fat Guys of the Movie, says, weighed down by the director's schizophrenic vision, this continues to demonstrate that Hollywood is flailing while trying to make a worthy adaptation of the Stephen King story.
Ooh, so true. It's so tough.
And then this is one of my favorites. Randy Myers from San Jose Mercury News says, isn't scary or thrilling as its young cast takes on boomers who've left their generation with nothing more than a fistful of crop dust. So
that about sums it up.
That about sums it up. So I guess we'll just jump right into our expectations. Give me your expectations, Isaac.
Derek and I were going into this a little optimistic.
So optimistic.
We had watched the trailer for it and we're like, okay, hold on. This doesn't look terrible.
Yeah, it looked great.
Like I was actually kind of like, maybe this is the one that'll like, you know, I will not side with the critics here. So my first expectation was that I was going to like it. You know, screw the critics. I thought maybe I would find something to enjoy within it. Mm-hmm. I felt like since it's a movie about kids killing adults in the year 2023, you know, I'm like probably going to be some annoying like boomer jabs or something like that. Uh-huh. I felt like the kills would be a little bit gratuitous. Not that that would be a bad thing, but I felt like the kills would be like overly gory and such. And then I said it probably wouldn't scare me much. I probably wouldn't feel much fear around it at all.
Yeah.
That was me.
Mine was pretty close. I feel like every expectations I've done on this podcast has started with bad kid actors. Because bad kid actors was my number one.
Yeah.
And then dragging plot. I really just felt like this movie was going to be boring. And uninspired scares were my three expectations.
Yup. Yes.
All right,
let's
jump right into the plot,
film.
I guess.
I mean, yeah, it kind of feels that way, honestly. There are, throughout the entirety of the movie, nobody has any, like good motivations or just very weak motivations throughout the whole thing. You open up on, like, a kid walking out of a cornfield is basically like, I'm going to fix things, and he goes in and kills a bunch of adults in, like, some daycare center or something like that.
Yeah, and it opens on the main girl,
Eden.
Who's the 12-year-old who's gonna wreak havoc, and she's just like sitting on a tractor.
Honestly, rising star of the movie. She's really probably one of the things that made it very watchable at all. Mm-hmm. She was really giving it her all as being this creepy Joker-esque villain.
Yeah. So first thing he does is he picks up this cattle gun, and he just like looks at it for a while and then puts it down.
Chekhov's cattle gun.
Really though, and then he grabs the knife. And he's just like, I'm going to make everything better.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want you to cry anymore.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. And he goes into this house, he kills all the adults.
And it's really undescribed. Like, I don't understand what their relationship is between each other.
No idea.
Are they siblings or something? Because she's just like chilling out in front of the school or whatever.
Yeah,
he walks from the corn out and then just kills people. And you're like, oh, okay, is that supposed to motivate her as like a trauma kind of thing? She seems fairly unbothered by most things that happen. She's so jaded.
Really?
She has no soul, this Eden character does.
I mean, I even leaned over to Isaac when she was just sitting there in the tractor. I was like, girl gonna get trauma.
Girl gonna get trauma.
It seemed like it was like an orphanage. I mean, that was kind of the like general vibe to it, but it never said that. It seemed like a school. We still don't know. Anyway, he goes in there, he kills all those people, and how did the adults respond? In the most reasonable way possible.
Mm-hmm. Let's just fumigate it. Let's just pump a bunch of toxic gas in there.
But it wasn't just toxic gas.
Oh.
It was synth.
Mm-hmm.
The cornfield.
I mean,
chemical.
It's a corn town. What do they have an abundance of, you know?
Yeah, but it was that.
So is that why that happened? I was actually very confused because I felt like it shot to a completely different building where there were just gas being pumped into a school or something. I'm like, I'm confused.
I'm pretty sure it was a different building.
Because there were no dead adults in there because it showed you a scene from the inside of it and it's just a bunch of kids who looked like they were asleep.
And they were dead.
Yeah.
They were all dead.
Yeah, it was just so strange. Yeah, it felt very, very weirdly disconnected. I'm like, okay, what is this going to do for the rest of the plot of the movie? I'll tell you, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Pretty much nothing, yeah.
Pretty much nothing. That is almost completely useless.
So Eden's the only survivor.
Yeah. And mind you, through that whole thing, there's such intense music.
Oh my
goodness. Throughout this entire
entire
opening sequence, it is like a little overdone. I'm like, hold on, music, I'm trying to watch a movie.
It felt like a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
Like the score of this did. Mm-hmm. Because it was don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway, so Eden is the only survivor because she just wasn't in the house.
Yeah.
She wasn't in there.
Yeah, exactly. She was waiting outside.
Poisoned. And she gets picked up by a priest who's the creepiest looking man I've ever seen in my life.
Old men are so creepy, and this man is no exception.
He's like, I'll take you home, little girl. You'll be safe with me.
Yeah, he's gross. And she is again so jaded. I knew from the beginning, I'm like, I think I'm gonna hate this girl, but in like a good way. I think I'm like supposed to hate her, not like hate her as an actress, because I think she did really well. But I definitely think I thought I was gonna despise this little girl, because he basically asked if the guy that went in and killed the adult said anything to her. She's like, oh no, just that he's sorry. And he's like, sorry for what? She's like, sorry that he didn't kill all of you. Basically something like that. And then flash the title screen. There it is.
Again, with that Transformers music. It just would not let up.
I gotta say, the cinematography was looking pretty good. I really liked it. It had this like sepia kind of camera filter on it that I really enjoyed. The colors really popped and it looked really great, which is something that misled me from the beginning, right? Absolutely. When I watched the trailer, I'm like, this looks really good. Like really, really high quality stuff. Like big budget, good looking movie.
We did say that to each other too. We're like, oh man, the cinematography. And I remember being kind of mad. I was like, not another good cinematography movie.
The camera work was decent, but I thought it looked really good.
That's one thing that degraded throughout the movie. Definitely, because all the cinematography was just the same.
It was good, and then it stayed the same throughout.
Yeah, it didn't do anything interesting.
It's like they had a couple good ones in their pocket and didn't really stray from that, you know?
Yeah. And so I actually wrote down extremely generic bum music. Bum bum. So then it seems like there's a time jump. But the time jump is in reality like a couple weeks. Or maybe a couple days.
Honestly, though. Enough for them to kind of not be talking about the whole, like, kid killing much at all. They're too busy worried about their corn and stuff, you know? Everyone else has got other problems. So it's like, oh, right, remember when all those kids died?
Yeah.
You killed them? It's fine, I guess.
It's so funny to me. So, okay, now we jump to the second main character. Bo.
Yep.
She is 17-year-old girl. She's about to go off to college. She's a biology major, which is just thrown out there.
It's a lot of like cliche tropey stuff, you know. It's like girl who's too smart for this farm town. She's gonna get out and hit the big shot in the school in some other town, and then like brother's like, no, you can't leave me and dad. And she's like, you'll never come back to us. She's like, no, of course I'll come back. I love you guys, you know. It's like it just felt very unnatural and forced. This entire opening, like next 30 minutes is nothing but like kind of unnecessary exposition, and the way you get from in between each scene felt so weird and unnatural. Like they didn't have a good way to transition between scenes. They just happened to follow this main character as she stumbled upon, oh, here's another set where there's exposition. Okay, I'm gonna wander again. Here's another set where there's exposition, right? Like it didn't flow very well at all, and the lines felt very robotic and forced.
And through this whole thing, all you're getting are various shots of Eden looking creepy and Bo looking shocked.
Yeah, Bo confused and not knowing where to go.
Yeah. So you come up on Bo and her little brother. They walk into this, like, there's a silo, like a grain silo, and Eden is there chanting that they need to sacrifice this little kid.
Yeah, from the get-go, you get no build-up of like, oh, these kids are kind of creepy. You get no reasoning behind them. Just like from the start, the first scene you interact with these kids, they are immediately like cultists trying to sacrifice this kid from the top of the silo, making him walk off of a board, a plank, onto like this really nasty looking jagged pile of like
he would die if
trees and corn husks and such. Like it was pretty gnarly. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're just here now. We don't get any reason for why these kids are kind of psychotic. Like just the entire time they're like that, and they never change.
And it feels like Eden is like the actual psychotic one, and the rest of the kids are just like, we're bored.
Everyone in the movie is such complacent sheeple the whole time. Nobody has a spine or a soul or anything besides the characters that actually have lines.
Yeah, no, seriously. So yeah, she like Bo tries to convince Eden not to have this kid jump off.
Right.
And while she's doing that, her little brother starts getting into it. He's like, oh wait, adults do suck, and this kid sucks. Let's kill him.
I know, it's crazy, which is weird because like it starts off half being like they're playing a game, you know? They're like, oh, their kid's playing. Even the kid who's getting sacrificed is like, oh, come on, guys, stop playing. So he's not a part of the rest of it, right? But all of them are convinced they are going to kill this kid.
Absolutely.
And it's just so strange. And so like it's kind of like I'm not sure whether to believe this kid is actually in danger or not.
Yeah, and then when you're not sure, freaking Eden pulls out a lighter and she's like, okay, I'm gonna light this on fire, because you see it like an old abandoned car with its gas tank leaking everywhere.
Yeah, that's when you meet them too, is they're just destroying this random car in the middle of the cornfields. They're just smashing it up and they're about to sacrifice this kid. Like, what on earth is going on here?
And this is the first time we hear about grain dust, because Eden's like, I mean, Bo is like,
Bo
hey,
tells her.
Eden, you can't light that match. You'll blow everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
And also, that will kill this child.
Right, again, she's like, hey, remember, don't kill this kid, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty, like, her brother is pretty quick to jump into that. It is so fast for him to basically go from, like, sis, I love you, you can't leave, to now that he's accepted that, he's like, oh, well, life is terrible and everything's terrible and I hate you and I'm going to start killing people. Yeah. He just immediately jumps to murder. Like, that's
Really,
fine.
though? It
It's
was
nuts.
like complete 180.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just can't even believe that.
But yeah, so there's a couple mentions of like, you know, the grain dust will like light a big fire, right? Which seems kind of like, I wonder if this if we're gonna see some fire maybe in this movie. It just kind of felt that way. But then we get like one of the older kids, right? Because they're all kind of young, maybe like 12 to 14, right? Then you get a kid who seems like he's more of Bo's age. He walks in here and probably one of the worst actors in the movie. He literally comes in, he goes, "What in frick's name are you doing to this car?" He's like, "Are you effing crazy?" I'm like, what? Is this movie PG-13? Just because he seemed like the type he was, and like he's the cooler older kid who would probably say a swear word, right?
Yeah.
But just the fact that they felt the need, like that weird censorship. I'm like, just say something else.
Just say something else.
Don't say that. That felt so strange.
It's so bad.
And he was like rather unbothered about the car. He was like, "You guys shouldn't be doing this." I'm like, "Dude, they literally smashed what we find out is your grandmother's car, and they're about to kill a kid." And he's kind of like, "You shouldn't do this." But then immediately after that, they're like, "Hey, this guy killed his dog or something like that by accidentally feeding him poison." And then he's immediately like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. We can kill him then." He's instantly on board with that. I don't understand what that is. And I also don't understand, at this point, Bo's relationship to these kids.
No,
it's not
neither.
clear to me. I'm like, do they know each other very well? Because at first it seemed like, okay, so they're the brothers' friends. I get that much. What is Bo to Eden, you know? How well do they know each other? Are they on the same team? I can't really tell. Like,
No, me neither.
like if Bo were to tell her something, would she actually listen or not? You know, just because I couldn't feel that.
It kind of seemed like it's literally just a small town and everybody knows each other, but it's never really established that way.
Right, exactly, yeah. I get no sense of, like, relationships between any of them or, like, any kind of history with any of these characters. They all seem so disconnected from each other.
So then the new kid and Bo decide to leave. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna leave this."
He literally
crime
walks
scene.
through, like, things are getting crazy again. They're talking about killing the kid again. He goes, "I'm out." So, like, literally throws hands up and walks away. Like, yeah, gee, thanks for helping out, I guess. This kid's just gonna die, I guess. And then Bo leaves.
Yep, Bo leaves.
She's like, "All right, I'm gonna walk away from this." We don't even know if that kid died or
Nope.
not. We
No
know
idea.
nothing else about that kid. They didn't talk about like there was no, maybe he jumps right before they walk out. Nothing. He literally just stays at the top of that tower, and we have no idea what happened.
And they don't even mention it again either. It's just over. Mm-hmm. So as they're walking through the field, you get some information on the corn, which is its own character in this film.
You also get some information on why the car was parked out there, and it's because he's like something about weed.
Yeah, he's
like growing weed out there or something, or because he wants to smoke it in the car, I guess. But it's just funny because I'm like, now they're growing weed, and I'm just like, is it children of the weed now? Because
children of the weed.
so strange. just a random reason to have a car out there, which does end up becoming a plot point later. Another point of like lousy script writing, and like the actors, some of the actors are trying their hardest to
really
fight
are.
it, but no amount of acting can fix it.
So then they start talking about the corn, though, and freaking this guy is making all these terrible puns about corn. He's like, do you ever wonder why maize and maize are different things? It's amazing. But then she starts going on about the chemicals that they use and how it's destroying the cornfield. Now, mind you, this cornfield looks fine.
Yeah, all the corn looks just fine.
Looks
Doesn't look
just
very
fine.
sickly.
No, but I wrote down, I swear to God, if GMOs are the reason that kid killed those adults, I'm gonna throw hands.
Big GMO is the real villain here.
So yeah, then this guy's like, well, let's just till it all down and turn it into marijuana plants. Because, douchey
so
guy,
weird.
gotta be a stoner.
And then you find out through him, like, she does seem to care about this kid. He's got, like, this bruise on his cheek and, like, find out that he was protecting his younger brother from an abusive dad, another cliche thing. Mm-hmm. And that kind of is another useless plot point. A lot of the points with the parents can be cut entirely just because they don't make sense, they don't really do much for me. But then Bo is walking alone down along the corn, right? And you
Where
get
did
this.
he go?
I don't know where he went. I guess he walked. I guess they split paths at some point because then she was walking alone and she looks deep into the corn and you see like kind of maybe the shape of something behind it. And it's really like leading you to believe there's going to be a jump scare there. You know, the music's getting a little bit quieter. It seems to be like pulling focus right into that. So that's usually when, you know, a cheesy, weak jump scare is like, there you are. You know, I got you. But they didn't.
They didn't.
And
I appreciated that.
I literally wrote, good on them for not taking the easy route, you know, giving us a cliche jump scare. And then 6 seconds later, literally as I finished writing out that note, the girl is walking into town and her brother jump scares her for no reason.
For no reason.
She's just walking and he's like, bah, you know, just up to the side of her. I'm like, okay, that was even worse than if you had just scared her in the cornfield, honestly.
Really? And it even did that big, loud, booming symphonic noise to indicate this is a jump scare. Be
most
scared.
Jump scares are helped by the fact that there's like a big, like loud music cacophonous sound, like boom behind it, right? It's not the actual scare itself. But then the brother is another just terrible actor. It sounds like he's remembering these lines as he's saying them. Throughout this movie, the women are outacting the men tenfold. You know,
100%.
like Eden and Bo are really trying their hardest to give it, and the other kids are just living in the terrible script. You know, they are not. It's bad. So we walk from like the first expositional scene where like I'm going away to college, then the second expositional scene where like there's crazy kids killing people, and now we're in the third expositional scene, which again just kind of like find their way to each other. There's not a good flow to them. No. It's just like, how do we tell these people about all this exposition? We make it to the courthouse. Oh, and before we make it to the courthouse, we find out that mom and dad aren't doing too hot. They see mom flirting with this guy in a truck, and then she drives away with him.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, cool. Is that going to come back later? No.
The only thing you see of it is his car on fire.
Yeah,
that's it.
Honestly, the mom could have just been written as like she was dead. She had died when they were younger. That would have been better than than this weird plot point of like mom and dad aren't great and she's leaving him for this other guy now. It's just so weird. But so now we end up in the courthouse where all of the adults of the town are discussing, you know, big GMO and we brought them into the town and now it's chemically engineered and it's ruining things and what are we gonna do?
Herbicides and big corn are destroying our plants.
I'm old.
And then so they're like discussing that, and then the priest stands up. Maybe what is happening to our corn is more about a spiritual and moral problem.
Yeah, and all these like redneck looking dudes are like, shut up, old man. We don't care about your God. Which is so weird because I feel like a lot of Children of the Corn and the original Children of the Corn are all very biblically based, and nobody in this town seems to care about that kind of stuff.
They don't care
It's
at
just
all.
this pastor dude who really cares about it. There's also a weird amount of people not swearing, because like the kid was one thing, but like his dad actually was like, I can't remember, I didn't write it down. There's a line that he says, and it's like, I felt like you would have sweared like a normal adult would.
Really?
Especially looking like you, you're the abusive father type, you're a little more gruff. But again, I'm like, is this movie trying to be PG? I don't understand why the dialogue is written so strange there. Like, just swear. Just say shit or something. I don't care.
It really felt like the first half of the script was written in PG-13, and then they switched it to R when they decided they wanted to have gruesome kills. Mm-hmm. Which, we'll get into that.
Yeah, it does take a bit of a turn. But I felt like in this entire scene in the courthouse, I literally wrote down, I am learning too much about the agricultural system.
Really, though?
Like, I don't understand why there's so much about this. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that important to any of this. You could have easily just told us, you know, you invited people, this big corporation that messed up your stuff, and then, you know, that's really it. You know, that's why it's adults versus kids kind of thing. So it just seems strange. And I don't understand.
I wrote down, this is an ad for fucking anti-GMO.
Yes.
I was so mad.
It really felt that way, honestly. Again, just like a little too much of that. And then you get Bo, who's trying to stand up to her dad, who is leading this kind of this meeting here in the courthouse. And she's like, no, you know, we can change it. It's not too late. You know, she's kind of the voice of the younger people, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then all the adults are like, no, sorry, you're too young. You don't understand. And then there's a weird sequence where Eden also tries to speak up because they all vote, and they vote, you know, to let in more corporations and basically subsidize this move out to Florida in a timeshare, blah, blah. They're basically selling out.
Let's bury all of our corn.
Yeah, exactly. Let's literally bulldoze all of it, you know? Yep. We're not a corn town anymore. We're going to be a thriving new town. So, like, they vote on that, and then Eden comes up and is like, the kids haven't gotten a chance to vote. And then all of the adults just start making fun of them and laughing at them.
It's so weird.
And the insanity of this laughter scene it reminded me of, like, that scene in Evil Dead 2 where Ash is going crazy and all of, like, the stuffed heads on the walls are starting to laugh with him. It felt like that. There was so much crazy laughter going on. I'm like, what is going? You're laughing at kids. And whose kids are there? Are any of the parents in this crowd? Because I didn't think they were. I don't know who these kids belong to. And then it's never discovered.
Except for the one guy who's
the dad?
Who's the dad of Plaid Jacket Boy.
Yeah, exactly. So there's the abusive dad, and then there's the dad who's losing his wife and is like married to alcohol is basically his problem.
Who's Bo's dad.
Yeah, who's Bo's dad, and that's kind of his thing. But it's just such a weird scene. There's also a line where one of them says, "Corn economy can kiss my ass." That was literally something someone said. It was ridiculous. And honestly, at this point, I was like, maybe these adults deserve to die. They're all kind of assholes.
They're really terrible.
They're really just unnecessarily rude.
I actually wrote, this is the epitome of Stephen King parent trope. All the kids have abusive parents.
Yeah.
All of them. Mm-hmm. All of them are shitty
All of
parents.
the ones, at least, whose parents we know are, like, they belong to. Because, again, I'm like, I don't understand who there's a group of kids chilling in the back of the room, and it's like, where are your parents? Are they not here?
Yeah.
Where are they? So then, that scene ends, and then you get a sad Eden walking away into the corn. She's, like, down, and she's looking sad, crying, and then this corn husk hand, this, like, weirdly poorly done CGI'd hand comes
so
out and
bad.
like just like strokes her hair or something like that. And that made me laugh. It was a little ridiculous. I'm like, okay, now any kind of mystery and eeriness that was around whatever is living in the corn that is eventually going to like be the big villain of this is gone.
Yeah.
It just like, it did away with it for me.
They destroyed any hope of monster delay that they had. Mm-hmm. And it is funny though. So we were in a mostly full theater.
Yeah.
And that shot got so many laughs of confusion from the crowd. It was great. Mm-hmm. So after that, I wrote, this is genuinely one of the most boring movies I've ever seen.
The depth of this movie is a centimeter. That's how deep this movie
really
ever gets, honestly. But just there's no sense of mystery, no intrigue, no motivation going on throughout this whole thing. Again, the leading player in this is just like Eden, and she's like weirdly omnipotent the whole time.
Oh yeah.
She keeps like, I don't know, she just keeps showing up and knowing everything. It's like, okay, first you're like sad little girl over there, and then you're like weird leader of this cult. I don't understand which side where you are in this.
So next we jump to the pit that they're digging for the corn, which may be a week, maybe a couple hours, who knows. And all of the kids are in the pit covered in blood.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And they are painting the walls of the pit with this pig's blood.
Can I mention something before that actually happened though? So they're trying to plan how to stop all of the people selling out, right? Basically.
Yeah.
And so Bo finds out, hey, we can like publicly shame them by spreading the story throughout the news. And she's like talking to her friends. There's like 3 other like older kids in the town who were absolutely useless.
I actually forgot they existed.
They're in the courthouse scene. They're chilling in the corner. They don't really say anything. They just kind of look confused and sad and kind of nod along the whole time. But she goes to them anyway, and they're like, "Hey, we need to do this. We need to stop her." So she finds this like reporter lady online. She's like, she says, "I DM'd her." And again, I'm like, it feels weird when they put unnecessary amounts of technology and like modern day things in movies like that when it's not needed. So I'm like, just say you reached out to her. Don't say I DM'd her. And then she's like, okay, she wants to meet with us. Are you guys ready? Then she like puts it like sideways so they can FaceTime her. I'm like, yeah, that looks very like professional to be FaceTiming with this like news reporter lady, right? It's just it's so weird.
It looked like they were in an early 2000, like in 2010 music video, sitting on a car, like, haha, we're playing with our new phone.
Yeah, it looks very strange. So then that scene cuts away, and then we come to the scene that you're talking about.
The pit.
And it's mentioned that like Eden is wearing this like red wig, and they're like, why do you want to wear that? Why are you wearing that wig? She's like, because I want to be like the Red Queen, which is something that showed up in the very beginning of it. She was building a puzzle that had the Red Queen on it. She talks about wanting to be the Red Queen. There's a few references of like, let's cut off their heads, but it's not really ever used well. It's like, cut out this weird stuff with a Red Queen. It didn't seem to make sense.
It was so icky.
But then they were literally painting the corn red in this scene that you were getting to.
So Bo walks up to the edge of the pit, and again we get one of these stupid shots of this like upward angle at Bo looking shocked at something Eden is doing.
I should have had a counter for how many times she looked shocked by things that were happening in this movie. It's like, at this point, you should be aware that these kids are crazy and they're doing things that are not okay. Why do you always look so dumbfounded when things happen?
Serious. And then it pans to the other shot that happens in this movie, which is Eden looking creepy.
Yep. And just looking creepy and is so nonchalant about everything. She's like, what are you guys doing? They're like, she's like, what are you painting? That's blood. Just, nope. Is there a problem? Like, I don't understand. They
Painting
literally
on the pit. Duh.
Yeah. Painting it red like the Red Queen. Like, it's so strange, and I don't understand why. And all these kids, again, are just kind of like, they're just along with it. They don't seem very eerie or anything like that. They're just going along with Eden's plan for some reason, and Eden doesn't seem too bothered by much of it.
No.
There's the pig that they cut up for the blood is just like hanging in the back of the pit.
Chilling.
There's a kid like petting it too.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's so odd. It was so out of place for the tone of the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's like in this sequence, I don't understand if Eden and Bo are friends or not. Like, do they have an understanding between each other? But again, like, they just leave that scene. Like, Bo's like, okay, I guess nothing ever happens with that. It's like, okay, cool. Leave the kids to paint with literal, actual blood. They literally killed something. Is that not crazy to you? Why are you so casual about that?
And then Bo's like, okay, well, if you really want to help, here's what you can do.
Yeah.
Get all of the adults.
She basically completely disregards that. She like puts that in the back of her mind. She's like, murder aside, I need your guys' help.
I need you to get all of the parents and take them to the courthouse at 10 o'clock tonight. We got a reporter coming who's going to stop. We're going to take him to trial.
Yeah, we're going to hold a trial for them, right? It's just so strange.
So then it jumps to the night.
No, so we go back home, and there's a scene where it's like the family's chilling at home. The dad's there, he's drinking alcohol, the son's watching TV, and it's weird for them to have like smartphones where they're FaceTiming this reporter, and then have this TV that looks like it's from like the 30s, and they're watching an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Right, yeah.
And for a moment, I was like, what episode is The Twilight Zone of this? It was actually kind of neat. It's that one episode, I wish I had found the title of it, but it's the one where there's this kid who all of the adults in the town are afraid of. They do everything in their power to keep him happy and stuff. There's like this newcomer that comes into town that doesn't understand that, and this kid's kind of a pain in the ass, but everyone does what he wants, and he's nice because he has the power to basically wish them away.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the gist of it. It's like, don't mess with him because he is powerful and he will mess with us. You know, you do not want to get in the way of that, which I thought was kind of neat, you know, in a movie that was like, you know, about kids having the power and adults being afraid of them. You know, I thought that was really neat. But yeah, then it's the nighttime, right? And the girl's talking about she wants to change the world. It's like, it's their shitty little town. Like, I don't think you're going to change much of the world by bringing a reporter in to do a story about this. You know, it's really not going to have that much of an effect on you, right?
We can't fail to mention, though, she's looking out the window, and all the kids are, like, running past, and all of a sudden this girl, who we've never seen before...
Covered in blood,
stares into the window, and it kind of, like, zooms in on her, and then does this horrible jump scare, where her head, like, gets covered in corn vines, and they're, like, shooting out, and then just stops, and then she just walks away.
Just a quick moment. It's like, okay, well, so now things are feeling a lot more supernatural for just a second.
Yeah.
And that's never been mentioned at all, because, like, we have no sense. It's very elusive, the motivations, like the why for any of these kids, like why they're killing adults and why any of this is happening. It's very elusive, and then the reason behind it is so dumb when you find it out by the end. It's so we don't really ever see much about this corn monster that I know, because I saw the original. What you can kind of like make out through the movie is like the reason they are even doing this at all, why they've kind of gone crazy. But yeah, so they handcuff their parents. And it seems awfully threatening. Like, can't you just tell them to come to the courthouse? Like, I feel like they probably would have listened to you, because it seems like the relationship between Bo and her dad is pretty good. Like, they don't hate each other. So, like, he seems like he wants to listen to her, but he's kind of given up on life. And at that point, he's a pretty useless character just because he's completely put his hands up. He's like, I'm done. There's nothing I can do, you know? So
and
then
you can tell that in the budget they didn't have the money to pay for the mom. Like they do everything in their power to not have her talk, not have her move. Like, she's just laying over in the bed.
She was even in the bed with them, not even awake. The dad was up and talking to the daughter, and I guess she couldn't be bothered to wake up. Nope. She was also handcuffed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, then they drive them into town, and then suddenly, everything's kind of amiss. Like, cars are in the middle of the streets, things are looking kind of bad, and you're like, what the heck happened? I'm lost again.
Really?
So then they make it to the courthouse.
Yeah, they make it to the courthouse, and Bo is sitting outside with her horse. Eden is sitting outside with her horse, and the horse is, like, attached to the door, and Bo's like,
rope.
Where are all the kids? Where are all the parents? What's going on? She's like, well, you were late. And
it's like, they're inside. We held the trial.
And the best line in the movie, Bo is like, well, where's the reporter? Did she show up? Did you pick her up? Eden, 12-year-old girl, did you go pick up this reporter?
I told you to go pick up. Why would you trust the little murderer girl to go pick up the reporter? She's important to you. Why would you not send one of the older kids? That is dog shit. What the hell is that?
It seemed like the energy of, like, did you go pick up my kids for baseball practice? Or,
right,
like,
exactly.
from the airport or something?
Like, yeah, cool. And then she basically like, oh, She didn't show up.
She didn't show up.
Guess she had better things to do.
Yep. And then all of the kids' phones, all the phones don't work because, technology.
I think there was like one sequence where the kids were, there was a scene where like it seemed like the younger kids were planning something with Eden, but it was completely dubbed over with music, so we didn't understand any of their plan. Yeah. All I knew was like, well, they're up to something. I literally wrote a note that said, it's called Children of the Corn. Why do I feel like the children are background characters?
Really?
None of what they do is important. It kind of just like happens and you have to learn about it later, right?
Maybe here, I got a theory. What if there is plot? What if they are talking about it, but the music is so loud and so booming that you can't hear it?
Yeah. They've ruined it with their Michael Bay music. But this scene goes on way too long. It is probably the longest sequence of like Eden looking creepy and Bo not knowing what to do. I just feel like the writer and director did not know what to do with the actor playing Bo, just because like every other scene she's just sitting there looking confused about stuff. And really, she's a decent actress, but like they just didn't know what to do with her. But so like this scene was going on way too long. Either somebody say something or make someone talk. All they're doing is talking about like, Eden, what's going on? And then Eden gives a cryptic answer. She's like, I don't understand what's happening. What's this? Another cryptic answer. Like, just move forward. I'm done now.
Please move forward.
Honestly, though. So then you go, then Eden's like, you want to see something cool? And then we find out what the horse is attached to. It's attached to the abusive dad of that one kid from the beginning. And he's hanging in the middle of the courthouse. They try to lift him up. And then there's actually a pretty gnarly look scene where like Eden just like takes the horse and walks a little bit further so the rope is too high for them to lift him up anymore.
I actually think that this was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Honestly, too, it was probably the only scene that made me feel any kind of like eerie emotion from it. And I was like, oh, that was kind of creepy. I liked that.
Because like bad writing and bad everything aside, that guy was awful and I wanted him to die.
Yeah, he was pretty terrible.
So like watching him get
such a slow, like evil way to kill, because Eden was not worried at all. She's like, I'm just going to take this horse, the rope's going to go a little bit more and there's nothing you can do. Pretty wild, pretty gruesome. But and then after he's dead, she goes, he's not laughing now. And the audience laughed.
It was so funny. I wrote, he's not laughing now, and then I put a shrug emoji.
Yeah,
he's not laughing now.
So yeah, then the kids are all walking around like there's some kind of like badass mob. All these kids do is look kind of like sad and twirl rusty weapons.
Yep.
That's literally all they're good for.
All they do. And the rusty weapons are just held. Nothing ever happens with them. They're just holding on to
exactly.
them.
They're just holding things,
I feel like the director and everyone, when they were making these scenes, they're like, how do we make these kids look creepy? Give them tattered clothes, give them rusty weapons. Yep. They don't have to do anything with them. Yeah. Just have them hold them.
Exactly. It's just so stupid. But again, I feel like I'm existing outside of this movie because now they're walking through the town and suddenly there's more cars overturned, there's dead bodies on the ground, things are on fire. It's like, what happened? I feel like there's a whole chunk of this movie that was like missed, like cut from it or something. So yeah, the kids have just taken over somehow. I don't understand how they overpowered so many adults.
Really?
Because then they come to the jailhouse where all of them are locked up in a cell.
Yep. And I personally didn't realize they were in a jailhouse because the way that this scene is shot is all of the kids come in and just start ripping up papers. I wrote, take that, papers and lamps.
Yeah.
They're just like,
kids are
for
just
no
going
reason.
nuts in this police station, throwing up papers and smacking lights and stuff. They're like, yeah, we're rowdy, we're rough.
It felt like that stereotypical thing that always happens where kids are alone. Let's make a mess.
Yeah, exactly. Kids make messes. That's what they do. It's anarchy. It's crazy. But yeah, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. And then the older kids are there, and again, they're useless. They're just chilling on the side, watching all of these kids do it. Like, you're in the room with all these kids, but you're not actively participating. So like, whose side are you on? Do anything. Do something. And it's funny because there's actually a moment where Bo's dad gets put in the jail cell. And he's like, you need to do something. She's like, we can do something. And it's like, can you? You haven't done anything the whole movie.
Really?
All you've done is stand by and let Eden do whatever she wants, basically. And there is actually one instance where a kid uses the weapon. The kid with the abusive father who just died, he's like, I've had enough of this. He gets up to do something, and there's a kid who clocks that. He's like, oh, I see him coming up. He's got this metal bat and whacks him across the face. And it's probably one of the only really good gore moments we get. You get the shot of him landing on the ground, and his face is like all like gnashed up, and you see like the exposed bit of like one of his eyes. It looked really neat.
It did look really gnarly. It was out of nowhere though. Like everyone in the audience was shocked, but no one was shocked at the kill. They were shocked at the kill happening at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, cool. It's like, that's a lot of damage for one swing from a bat to do. But it's like, where has this been the whole time?
Where has that been? Like,
Honestly,
show us
though.
more of the parents that are dead in the street. Like, there could have been so many cool moments, like a montage even, of watching these kids go insane and killing their parents.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. I would have loved to see that sequence, honestly, which would have led up to this a lot better.
It would have been fantastic. And then you would have understood why all these kids are able to overthrow their parents. Like, in the middle of the night, they wake up, they kill their parents.
Right.
Like,
But yeah, so now they're just
so
locked
wasted.
up in this jail cell, and then Eden brings in more of that synth stuff, right? The same chemical stuff that they used to kill the kids in the very beginning of the movie. She actually, I do enjoy the way this shot looks. She puts on this really old-looking, like, cool gas mask.
It's in a lot of the publicity.
Yeah, a lot of the still image for the trailers a lot of the time is that cool looking gas mask. Is one of the cooler looking shots. And then so then she pumps it into the building, and it's basically like, I hope you can hold your breath longer than those kids could, right?
Here's my issue, though. Everyone is in the building. The kids are in the building. The teenagers are in the building.
She's the only one
She's
with the gas mask.
only one with the gas mask.
She doesn't warn them either, like, hey guys, get out of here, I'm about to gas the building.
But some reason, it only affects the parents.
Yeah.
Everyone else is fine.
They're the only ones affected by it. And also, I was like, oh, so we're killing all of the adults. This is one of the few, like a couple times in the movie where I was like, where do we go from here after you kill all the adults, right? But we find out it didn't actually kill them.
No, they're fine.
I guess it's just noxious enough to kill kids, but not a full-grown adult for some reason.
Apparently not.
Because it basically just knocks them out, and then they wake up in that pit where they were painting all the roots of the corn red with the blood, right?
Yep.
Just deep enough that an adult person could not climb up out of it.
How did the kids get in and out just fine, but these stupid adults stand in this pit and just walk in circles?
Yeah, they're like, they're like NPCs. They have no idea what to do in this pit. And it's morning time now. And so, like, and then the kids are all surrounding the pit looking all creepy. Again, just spread about through, like, this tractor equipment and, like, these rusty weapons over their shoulders, just trying to look menacing.
Remember? So they're all in there. They're freaking out. Bo runs up. What is going on? How did these people get here? 8 hours have passed at least.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Where did you go after the gas, right? Were you not with them trying to stop them from dumping all of these bodies into this pit? Like, it doesn't make sense.
There was no continuity whatsoever. I think that they just didn't have enough lighting to make the pit look good at night. So they're like, no, we'll do it during the day.
But it's like, you'd imagine adults trying to get out of this pit would, like, help each other up, like, give them a helping hand up. Like, let's, it's just crazy that they just decided to stay in this pit, and then they're threatening Eden again. She's like, you want to mess with me? She's like, okay, go boys. And then they push a bunch of dirt into the pit, and it kills them all.
I mean, they do it with tractors.
Yeah.
They ride tractors.
Yeah.
But I wrote down that during this sequence, there's like 10 shots of Bo looking scared and Eden looking creepy.
Yeah, and Bo is just so clueless throughout this movie. Like, why do you keep letting these things happen? You're just standing aside through the entirety of the movie.
It is just wild. And you do get a kind of a cool shot. Again, Eden is looking cool, like only one in the movie. She's like standing underneath this tractor that's about to dump this dirt. And that actually looked pretty cool.
Yeah, she's looking all cool, just standing there, like knowing there's no way they can get out of this. Like, she has the upper hand. She is one here, right?
So
then
then
again, there's not a lot of mention of, like, this evil character, right?
Yeah.
Until they're walking away.
Yeah. So yeah, buries them, and then like some hands are sticking out of the dirt, which is just not realistic because all of these parents were like 7-8 feet down.
Yeah, there's no way they would be close enough to the surface to have a hand sticking up out of it, right?
But they did it just so Bo could go up to her mom, she's never talked to in the whole movie, who hasn't said a word, take off one of her bracelets and cry into her hand.
Basically say goodbye to her dead mom that she hasn't had a relationship with this entire movie.
It just made me mad. I felt nothing.
Yeah. And it's also like, she's like, Dad's alive. I gotta go save him and the rest of them. You other useless, older kids, you go get help, right? So she sends them away, and it's like, oh, right, I forget not all of the adults were in this pit. It kind of made you believe they took all of them, put them in here.
I genuinely thought they were all in.
But apparently there's a handful of them that are still alive that are back at, like, the jailhouse. And there's also shots of, like, dead bodies throughout the town, too. It's like, how many parents does this town have?
Freaking adults,
I don't understand. And there's just, it's so bad.
It is so bad.
So yeah, then they're walking to the jailhouse now. Bo catches up to Eden, is kind of asking, why would you do this? And she kind of talks about how, like, now we understand. It's like, oh, he who walks, is that all they say?
Yeah, he who walks.
He who walks told me to do this, I was alone in the corn at some point, which again, I don't know when that happened.
When I spent 5 days alone in the corn,
she was
he
basically,
who walks helped me.
Yeah, he helped her out. And she's like, nobody in this town ever did that for me. So that's her reasoning, is like this, like, corn entity helped her out and cared for her while no other adults ever did.
In my desperate need to understand the plot, I think I just figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay. They think all the kids are dead in the well, we'll call it a morgue, but it was actually a children's school. And and Eden got scared and ran into the cornfield.
Yeah, that
had to have been happened.
From.
And then creepy preacher man finds her
in the
It's
corn.
Like, I'm gonna take
something. And that's never set up. Like that's what we had to piece that together.
This is me trying to make sense.
To do that, right?
We're just trying to understand.
No, it's so bad. So yeah, then there's just no such thing as build up in this movie. Never ever.
Or payoff.
No build up, no payoff. Things just happen. You're like, okay, fine, that's a thing. So yeah, now they're back at the jailhouse, and Bo is like playing double agent right in front of Eden. She's going up to her dad. She's like, hey, they're gonna send you out into the cornfields, so you need to do exactly what I say, right? And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go along with it. Eden's like 2 feet behind her.
Literally.
Talking full volume, trying to like have this mastermind plan. But still, Eden is like, no, I trust her. She's cool. Yeah.
It's so dumb.
And then, yeah, so she's like, no, we didn't kill you two, the dad and the pastor, because you guys stood up for the corn. Mm-hmm. And the pastor's like, oh, yes, I did. I stood up. You remember that? She's like, but you did sin.
But you did sin, old man.
Which I guess implies that something gross happened between him and Eden. And I mean, I'm glad.
Or him and someone.
I'm glad I didn't see that or like have anything more than that. But I was like, oh, God. So yeah, old men are creepy.
Why did that have to happen? That's such a tired trope.
So yeah, then they take him out of the cell and gouge his eyes out with like this rusty looking sickle. And the makeup on his eyes, there's 2 shots. There's one where his eyes are kind of bulging out of their sockets, which is weird because they just got stabbed through, but they're completely intact eyes, just like kind of puffed out through his face. And then she gouges some more, and then the next shot is him like completely eyeless, just like bloody sockets, you know?
But you could see the prosthetic. Like, it really bugged me because this scene had so much potential. And her she like holds his eyes when she takes him out, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, she's
gnarly.
She's like holding these like bloodied eyes in her hand. It's wicked.
But you could like see his eyes pressed closed with the prosthetic.
Yeah.
You could literally tell he was about to lose his eyes because of the makeup.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
But so then to jump forward a bit, they go back to the courthouse and they're about to kill the reporter, which they had actually kidnapped, right? And Bo was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna take her out this way. It'd be better if we give her to He Who Walks, right? Let's give her an actual sacrifice.
Take her to the corn."
And she's about to walk away with her. They're almost out of there, and then they're like, "Oh no." We should take her to this one spot, right? Come this way. Then they come up to a farmhouse where they basically tie her up like King Kong style.
Absolutely.
This blonde sacrifice, and they open these big farm gates for He Who Walks to come through. Also in this barn, they find the mangled corpses of the older friends that she sent out to get help.
Oh, yeah. They looked cool.
They looked cool. And they're just like, well, that's probably the most useful you've been in this entire movie. Is like kind of to give Bo a bit more motivation to be upset about these things. Because again, she just kind of like complacently walking through the movie, you know, it's terrible. And so I think this is where Bo tries to turn on Eden.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I can't let this happen. She tries to go and like stab her or something. No, she holds her by the neck with a knife.
Yep.
And it's like, you don't want to do this. He Who Walks is going to get you. And she's like, He Who Walks isn't real. And then sauntering through the woods. This is the only moment where we have a bit of like monster delay here, right? Where like there's a lot of shots of like barely any shot of the creature and a lot of people looking scared and like kind of in disbelief, like, oh, he's real. Like I didn't believe that.
My issue with this scene though, I love monster delay, right? Like I want to feel tension. I felt no tension because it was that same stupid music again, and like give me tense music.
Yeah.
Make me feel something, not boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And instead of like showing these cool shots of maybe like shadows or some part of his body, no, they showed a face shot of every single kid looking scared.
Yeah.
And 10 shots of Eden and Bo, at least in this one sequence.
Yep.
Ugh.
So,
Please.
then we basically like he takes her, walks away into the woods as she's screaming, and then Eden's like, "Oh, so we couldn't trust you after all," which you probably should have known in the first place. She's not been very good at playing double agent here. So they knock her out, cover her in kerosene. She ends up escaping from them and trailing off into the corn, leaving a very neat trail of like what is it, tractor fuel?
Tractor
or something?
fuel,
yeah, kerosene, whatever. So like literally as she was running, I could see this very neat line following away from her. I'm like, that's probably going to come
That's
back
gonna come
later,
back,
right?
But they were gonna light her on fire. But then, of course, she had to
Again.
bring up the grain dust
Again
She's
with the
like,
grain
"Hey,
dust.
be careful, that's gonna blow up. It's gonna blow up."
Mm-hmm.
So when you see the guy walking around, I wrote down, it's the Demi-Corngan.
The Demi-Corngan.
The Demi-Corngan.
The CGI needs work.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
bad. We see a shot where he takes the reporter girl and rips her in half, which would have been pretty gnarly and cool, but the CGI and it looked so
It
bad.
looked like
the physics
plastic.
of her dangling body looked so bad.
It did that bad CGI thing where everything was too fast, so it was impossible to believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who did the CGI, and maybe they're good at it. Maybe they just didn't have enough time or funding.
Budget, I don't know.
It just felt so rushed. I feel like us sitting at Blender for like a couple
hours,
we could do much better, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah. But so then she's running away and she gets, pursued by he who walks, this big corn husk monster now, right? He gets to her, and this is like the only scene where like the CGI looked decent and we got a good look at the creature. He's basically got this cool mask thing, like I guess just like a husk of corn covering his mouth, and then it comes away and you see like these gnarly looking like teeth that are about to bear down on her. I'm like,
I liked
wow,
him.
that looks really cool. I actually
liked
did
him.
like it. I liked the design of him there, because at first I was not on board with it, but then when they showed me that close up and I got a good look at it, I was like, no, this is actually pretty well done. I like that a lot.
You know what I'll say?
No.
Demi-Corngan can get it.
Could Demi-Corngan get it, you think?
He could get it.
I think so too. Or maybe he couldn't, because she takes another rusty tool that was in the ground and stabs him in the face with it, and then he just runs away. Is he powerful or not? It took one stab to the face to get rid of this guy.
Like a scared puppy just running through the field.
Yeah, so then she finds the grandma's car from the beginning that was being beat up, and she's able to turn it on, even without the fuel tank being properly intact.
It was literally sliced open.
Yeah.
All of the fuel is gone at this point.
So she's driving away. This cool scene of her driving through the corn. You see the trail is even behind her. And then the car stops. It stalls. She's like, please, please, please. She's on the main road to get out of town, It finally starts up. And then Eden is in the back of the car.
Where did she come
Was
from?
she there the whole time? Or did she somehow slip in? I don't understand.
And then Eden says one of my favorite lines.
I wrote that one down too.
This is madness, craziness, insanity,
Oh no, that was Bo's line.
Was that Bo?
Yeah,
I
Bo
thought that was
said
Eden.
No, Bo said that. I thought you were talking about Eden's line, because Eden, seeming very done with this whole situation, goes, "It's past my bedtime."
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, give me a break. Come on,
Which is
man.
funny, because earlier in the show, I wrote 10:27 is past everybody's bedtime.
Really? Yeah, exactly. So it's just such a dumb line. But yeah, so then Eden is threatening her with his cattle gun, right? Which was there in the beginning, right?
Chekhov's
which
cattle
was barely
gun.
picked up, So she's like threatening to kill her with it, and she's like, "Oh, allow me one smoke, please," because there were just some cigarettes on the dashboard. And there's literally a conversation between the two of them where Eden's like, "You smoke?" She's like, "Yeah, bad habit I'm trying to break."
It's so stupid.
But then there's the only scene in the movie where I actually felt any tension.
Yeah.
Was right when she's like, okay, so she lets her smoke the cigarette, right? So she pushes in like that old school like lighter in those
Cigarette lighter,
cars
yeah.
that like that heats up and such. And then they step out of the car. She's like, get on your knees so she could shoot her. And then she says some corny line about how, like, did you really think when you covered me in all that fuel that I wouldn't end up right here? Lights the gasoline on fire. And then a very, very neat trail goes throughout the entire, everywhere we've been in the movie, basically every significant location.
It didn't even follow the path that the car was taking. It was just like its own path of fire leading throughout this entire cornfield.
Yeah, and also she's covered in gasoline. She
she's
would have
fine.
set ablaze.
Absolutely. She would be
She
burnt
was
to a crisp.
soaked in that stuff. It
Like
was
dripping.
ridiculous.
It's like every time they had a new image of her, they covered her in more gasoline.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was so weird because as soon as the cornfields are on fire, suddenly the kids are like out of their spell or something. Because suddenly it's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. I'm tired of being murderer. Everything's
Really,
on
though.
fire now. And then Eden walks away with her monster friend into the corn.
Wait, what are you doing? The explosions.
Oh yeah, the huge explosion of like the barn with all the synth.
But the CGI of this explosion.
I actually thought it was fine. I had no
What?
problem with it. It looked
It
pretty
was
good.
so
It
bad.
looks good enough that it was in the trailer. Even in the trailer, I was like, that looks pretty cool. Wow. Yeah, the explosion didn't bother me in the slightest.
To me, it looked like, those like when you take cotton balls and shoot light inside of them? That's what it looked like to
Maybe
me.
I like that effect a lot. That's
Maybe.
why I liked
I
it
think
so
so.
much.
It took me out of it. It's like the fire at the end of Banshees of Inisherin. It just like took me out of it. The CGI was
I think Derek
so
just doesn't like fire.
No, fire bad.
He's like Frankenstein's monster. So then we cut forward. We are at the end of this movie, probably Derek's favorite part. Like, Bo is... I don't understand how she got here, but she's walking through this desolate wasteland of, like, burnt-up cornfields, which just wouldn't look like that.
No, because the corn was all fresh. It was green. It would not burn like
It just
this.
looked like she was walking through some kind of landscape in, like, Elden Ring or something. Like, it just looks like some kind of weird Badlands.
Oh, my goodness.
And she comes upon Eden's little sunflower ring that she was wearing the whole time. And, like, there were a couple, like, establishing shots of that ring that I was like, is that ever going to become important?
Yeah,
I don't
it definitely
understand.
zoomed in on the ring a lot more.
And then do you want to explain how this movie ends?
Yes,
Because you
because
loved it.
I woke up in the middle of the night laughing at
Derek
this.
could not stop laughing. We finished the movie, we're walking out of the theater, he's laughing. When we get home, he's still laughing about it. He cannot control himself. This movie was his Joker.
Literally, though. So, okay, she's holding the ring in her hands, and she closes her hands around the ring. And when she opens her hand up, the ring is gone.
Like a magic trick.
Magic trick. She turns around, and who's standing there?
But it pans up from the bottom.
up.
You see these like gnarly... I do like the effects on her legs, you know, like look really nasty. Like you see bone through charred meat and fleshy stuff. Like she's wearing the dress. It's Eden, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? You recognize the dress. You see her like bony, decomposed flesh. And then...
Eden looks dramatically at Bo with her charred, disgusting, skull-ridden face. Don't you know, Bo? Nothing really dies in the corn. And a bunch of tentacle green corn vines just stab into Bo.
just like explode out of her and go straight into Bo. It felt like maybe it was a dream sequence, but Lord.
And then it just cuts to black.
And then it's done. The movie's over. And Eden looked like Chucky, like the doll, if it had been like shaved and like rolled around in red paint. It was so weird.
I've never been that happy at the end of it. It was the worst thing I have ever seen. It was like the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah.
Like, I thought the movie was over when the fires were done.
Honestly, though, and it probably should have ended there. That last scene was unnecessary.
We've talked about the audience a lot, but there were at least 7 people in the crowd, including myself, who went, what?
Yeah, just
what the
completely-
fuck?
And not necessarily in a good way, right?
No, we were shocked.
Yeah, but
And not in a good way.
That was like my final note on it. I was like, what the fuck was that ending?
What the fuck was that ending?
So you want to talk about our pros and cons here?
Oh, I didn't even write any down.
So I'll get you some. So one of my pros is like the movie looked impressive. I really liked the colors and some interesting shots, even though they didn't really give a lot of those. It was kind of the same throughout. That was again, that's kind of initially what led me to think, oh, maybe this movie will be good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the one close up we got on He Who Walks.
Yeah.
And I thought the gas mask looked cool. That's about it. All I can muster for pros. For cons, just no amount of good acting or cinematography could have saved this awfully bland, pieced together script. Just completely mediocre. There's no way it could have been saved.
No, yeah.
The few bits of really bad CGI kind of pulled me out of it, and there were just no motivations. They were so weak. I couldn't be on anyone's side, you know. And I feel like in good horror, I feel like you should have someone to root for, because I feel like that helps you feel afraid of things that are going on for them in the movie, right? And then I feel like the movie lost a lot for me when we no longer had this like outside point of view of the town, because in the original and even in the short story, which I read a little bit about, it's like someone coming into the town and coming into this insanity, but with it being from within, I feel like that just hurt the movie, you know. It really took away from a lot of it. You want to talk about some trivia?
Well, I want to give my pros and cons.
Oh yeah, so you have some.
So my pro definitely is that ending shot, because it just filled me with so much joy.
Oh, man.
But also, I did enjoy the couple kills that we got of the parents and the guy with the baseball bat, like the one of him hanging.
Mm-hmm.
I did think that was cool and eerie. I did like Eden as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did
Eden and
to
Bo
an
were
extent.
trying their hardest.
Yeah, and I appreciate actors trying to do their best, and it gives me hope and joy. For cons, though, I think really my main one that you didn't really touch on was the cinematography of the cornfields, because their only transition in the show was to do a drone shot over the cornfields, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And it just really, it got old.
Yeah,
it really did.
honestly.
Just like the corn on the cob, it got old.
So there's not a lot of trivia for this movie, I'm assuming because it's like really new, but I was able to find out that this is actually Some say the 12th adaptation, some say the 11th adaptation of the Children of the Corn
That is
series.
So many.
Which I did not know. I only ever saw the first one.
Why?
I didn't know there was a second one, let alone 10 more of them, you know?
When did Children of the Corn release? When was the first one?
1984.
Okay, so since then there have been 12?
Yes.
That's like one every few years.
Exactly, and that's the thing. They basically and they were all like direct-to-video kind of like terribleness,
Why?
right? And the titles are so entertaining. I just have to give you this list of them. So we have 1, Children of the Corn. That's
a
easy
good one.
enough. And then you have the sequel, Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice,
Ooh.
which apparently it wasn't because you made like 9 more movies after that. Then you come to the third, Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest. Like, hey, got a new title.
Ooh.
Children of the Corn 4, The Gathering.
Ooh.
Then Children of the Corn 5, Fields of Terror. Like, they're just adding any kind of like title to this to make it more interesting. Then instead of going 2-6, it goes Children of the Corn 666. Isaac's Return.
I see what they did.
Because he was basically the Eden of the original movie. Then it's Children of the Corn Revelation. Then Children of the Corn Genesis. Children of the Corn Runaway. Then there was a 2009 remake, according to this. It's just called Children of the Corn. And then we have the 2023 new adaptation, not quite a remake, called Children of the Corn.
Okay.
There's also a short film called Disciples of the Crow, which also falls within that.
Hey, that's a cool sounding one.
Like,
Wait,
wow.
Wait, scroll back up. So you got all these. You got like Final Sacrifice. You got Urban Harvest. These are great punk band names. We got to make a punk band, like 10 punk bands, because
That's about
Urban
666
Harvest.
Isaac's Return. That sounds great.
That's
right?
my favorite band. One more thing I wanted to mention: the irony of the GMOs, because this movie, we didn't touch on it nearly as much as the movie did. It is just an ad for anti-GMO,
Yeah.
like the entire time. But corn, as we know it, wouldn't exist without GMOs.
Yeah, this is where his culinary degree comes in handy.
I've literally taken classes on GMOs, and yes, there's things that could be bad about them, and I'm not going to get into that. But the thing that is a fact, is a true fact, corn was not edible, and then with selective harvesting and GMOs, they were able to make it edible. And I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there. The irony of that is hilarious. I'm mad. I hated this movie. It was horrible. It was corn awful.
Yeah.
It was coffle. I'm so mad.
Yeah, my verdict also has to probably be this was horrible, had a lot of potential, ended up being a horrible movie. And, you know, things don't die in the corn, and maybe this one should. Maybe it's finally time.
Maybe it should. Because you know what? Nothing really dies in the corn.
Goodbye.